Bible discussions with PG. Sister Chapman, could there be a counter argument to say that Black people did not have the support of the local law enforcement? Yes. So in the South in particular, keep in mind, the KKK is the military arm of the Democratic Party. So in the Deep South, you had whole police departments, right? And the KKK was absolutely used to strong arm and to subjugate and oppress and do all kinds of wicked, trifling, nefarious things to people in the South. My argument, though, still stands because we have people who grew up in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s in the segregated Jim Crow South, who, for example, Vince Everett Ellison's father lived in the same community with Doyle, I can't remember his first name, who was the Grand Wizard of the KKK. And he was always causing problems and starting drama with Black folks on who he felt were vulnerable and weak that he could control. And Ivory T. Ellison flat out told him, hey, I see this foolishness that you're doing down here. You mess with me and mine, I'm going to blow your brains out. It was real simple for Ivory T. He ain't never had no problems with Grand Wizard of the KKK because, and I'm not saying this as this a foolproof solution that would have never come with any consequences intended or unintended. What I am saying is that whether it's slavery or state-sponsored oppression and segregation, it happens and it's allowed to flourish and proliferate. And it's a reflection of the weak being conquered and overpowered by the strong. It's always about weakness and vulnerability. And when you show weakness and vulnerability, people who are stronger than you will exploit that and use it to their advantage. We had the same thing happen in slavery. Think about it. You have the Civil War, and you have many plantations that were effectively abandoned because all the white men have gone to fight in the war. What did we see happen? Not only did we see some slaves go and fight for the Confederacy alongside their masters, which is crazy to me, we also saw plenty of slaves who didn't get the bright idea to be like, this would be a good time to escape and leave. I mean, master's gone, everybody's dead. What is this little frail white woman gonna do? Like, what's she gonna do? We did not overwhelmingly see slaves revolt in mass. They were hear me when I say this, and I think this is a wonderful question, and I'm so glad that you asked, but we have got to contend with the fact that why is it that we had few slave revolts? We can name most of them. You have plantations with hundreds of slaves on them. And you mean to tell me they couldn't band together and overthrow the master and the overseer and take the plantation for themselves? You want to know why it didn't happen? Because whenever they would try to do that, you'd have a slave-minded Negro go and snitch and tell the master what the other slaves were planning to do. You had that. And then you had some that were like, you know what? Master feed us. He clothed us. I mean, he a little harsh sometimes. But for the most part, we got it good here. Why we got to go mess that up? You have Black people who think like that today. They're like, listen, I got my Section 8. I got my EBT. What I need to go get some job skills for to improve my situation? Things are just fine right here. I got my Obama phone. What's the problem? I get my tax credit from all these babies that I'm having. The point I'm making is a lot of this has to do with mindset, and a lot of this had to do with choices. When you deal with a situation where the local law enforcement is heavily vested in maintaining an oppressive system of subjugation toward a people group that is demonstrated that they are weaker, yes, you're going to continue to have that. But there are certain Negroes that even the local law enforcement would not mess with, because they already knew, we mess with this Negro right here, he gonna come out guns a-blazing, he gonna kill us all. That was the Negro. That bad Negro, they ain't mess with him. They ain't mess with him. They mess with the one that they knew was gonna be, yes, sir, boss. Yes, I know I scratching and none itching. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You sure is right. It's an explanation. It pains me to look back through the annals of time and just have to come to these conclusions. But how else do you explain slaves digging ditches and ramparts for the Confederacy? They weren't whipped into doing it. They wanted to do it. Read Booker T. Washington's autobiography, and he will tell you of how during the war that there were slaves from his plantation that went and buried massive valuables in the woods so that the Union Army wouldn't come and take it. They guarded that plantation with their lives. And he got emancipation at 9, and he's telling the story of how when we got the opportunity to be free, me and my mama and my brother and my sister, we were out. But there was lots of slaves who went right back to that plantation and worked out an agreement with the master, because they like, master been good to me. Where am I going? I was born on this plantation, and I'm going to die on this plantation. There are a lot of slave narratives that tell that story. You have Harriet Tubman saying, do you know, I freed thousands of slaves, and I could have freed a whole lot more if they only knew they were slaves. Why does a woman with a gun, let's keep in mind, she had Jesus in her heart and that revolver on her hip or in her petticoat, whatever they wore back then. I love me some Harriet Tubman. Why is it that Harriet, her own sister, would not leave the plantation? She's sitting here like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I've risked my life to come get you, and you won't even leave? Because at that point, the slavery, it was slavery of mind, and it's just like that elephant. That elephant that you had shackled for so long that when you actually take the shackles off, he's still walking around in a circle, thinking he got that shackle on him, and he don't. And he could leave at any given time. He can leave whenever he want, but he conditioned. He where he want to be. He don't even realize he free. Don't know how to function in freedom. So that was a great question. Bible discussions with PG. I'm glad that you asked and pushed back. Because the very questions that you are asking and probably thinking and ruminating in your mind, trust me, before I bring this content to you, I have already wrestled and looked at this from so many different angles. Y'all, I tried. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, I hear what you're saying. I'm reading this, but I'm like, well, are we leaving room for the possibility that they're like, it's hard, right? We don't have no guns, or if we leave, they gonna kill us. And the opposition is always, so you have a choice, slavery or death. No one is making you pick either one of those. But if we look at the example of the forefathers of this nation who endeavored to tell King George, kiss my grits, we ain't about to be your slave. We have no king over here in America. And if you think we joking, you need to come over here and try us. That's what the Revolutionary War was all about. They were sick of living under the tyranny of a king way across the sea. And they told that joker, you thought we was playing when we said we was coming over here to establish a more perfect union? You thought we was playing? Okay, come find out. And he beat their tail into submission to where they earned the respect. Britain was like, you know what? We're going to leave them colonies alone and just we're going to let them do what they need to do. We done got our tail spanked. They done made it clear that they don't want no parts of us. They don't want a king. They want a constitutional republic. And we're going to go back over here and we're going to have our monarchy situation, and it's going to be what it's going to be. They fought for their freedom. And I'm inclined to believe that the reason why so many Black Americans in this country don't have that same veracity is because they were given their freedom by someone else and they didn't fight for their freedom. That's why they can take it for granted. They have no idea, unless you are a descendant of a Black American slave or former slave that fought in the Union Army, you don't have any connection to what it's like to literally fight to the death for your freedom. And so because you ain't got no skin in the game, you didn't really earn it, there was no bloodshed, it's easy for you to demand reparations, demand that people give you this and give you that. It's all, in my opinion, it's all stolen valor. It's all stolen valor. How you gonna demand reparations when we had several Homestead Acts where they were like, listen, all you got to do, these white folks are crazy. They don't like you. They don't want no parts of you. The war is over. You need to get as far away from these jokers as possible. Go out west. Take this Homestead Act. Go out west. Work that land for 5 years. And you can do that and make something of it. It is yours. You had Negroes that wouldn't do. You know what? It's too hard. The Mormons did it. They were like, y'all don't want us. Our little religion too weird for you. We're going to go out west. They still out there to this day. Generations later, the Mormons out west. We could have went to Texas. We could have went as far west as we wanted. But many of us were like, I'm staying on this plantation with my master. That's a hard pill to swallow. But it's the truth. There were several Homestead Acts, and less than 5,000 slaves took advantage of it. That's not a lot when we had millions of slaves here. And the idea of, well, I didn't have a wagon. Okay, now we doing excuses. Booker T. Washington and his mama and his brother, I told you, after the emancipation, they left their plantation and walked on foot to West Virginia in the cold with shoes that didn't conform to his feet, and they made it. You ain't to tell me, so because it's hard, you ain't gonna try? It's just a little challenging and difficult, you ain't gonna try? Just saying.